Electricast.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
On this episode of Missing the Point, we give our long-range view of Major League Baseball 1 week into the season. We'll break down the divisions, which moves made during the offseason will have the biggest impact, and we'll do what we do best on the show, bitch about the Boston Red Sox. This is Missing the Point, episode 52, but it's all relative.
Welcome into Missing the Point. My name's Joe Malkin, joined tonight by the real BK, Bob Kelly, Rayshawn, Buchanan, and of course, our EP, Craig D'Alessandro, who will probably get in on this episode a little bit as it's about his favorite sport, baseball. So, guys, we're going to talk baseball tonight as we're now 5 days into the season as we record this. The Red Sox are in game 2 of a series with the Rays, but it hasn't been an easy start to the season for all 30 teams, and it hasn't been an easy start to the season for the Red Sox, but we have a lot to get through. The baseball is back. No 60-game COVID-shortened season this year. They're going to play 162 games, most teams anyway. They're going to try and fit everything in with the least amount of issues as possible. I think from a societal standpoint, we're heading to that point as most leagues have announced that they will have fans. The Texas Rangers had a full stadium the other day, so it was wild. So, guys, let's get into some of the offseason moves. We saw a lot of big names move around. We saw the San Diego Padres basically load up, which they took a big hit today as Fernando Tatis went out with a shoulder injury, but is only expected to be on the IL for 10. So that's good for them. But let's start with that. Let's start with the Padres and talk about their offseason moves, because they made a lot of moves. And they, from big to small, they went out and basically revamped their entire roster. They brought in a Jurickson Profar, who's a utility guy, 278 hitter, 343 on base percentage, and a 428 slugging percentage. So he's going to be a singles and doubles guy for them. They bring in Blake Snell. They bring in Yu Darvish. And of course, they signed Fernando Tatis to a 14-year contract extension, which good for them, because right now he's the best player in baseball, and he's going to be for a long time. They're completely out of our market, and they're completely not relevant to the Boston Red Sox, but this Padres team should be impressive if they can stay healthy.
That's been the thing with the Padres. So this year does feel different with them because Snell, I like Snell a lot. He won the Cy Young last year, so obviously he's good. Yu Darvish has just been a stud since he came into the league. Since day one, Yu Darvish has been a stud. So we know what we're getting from Yu Darvish. It does feel different this year. I mean, we've seen San Diego do this before. You remember back in the day, they signed, they signed like Mike Cameron. They signed like 5 guys in 2 off seasons right in a row. And you thought that maybe they were going to do something, and within half a season, they were all gone. That doesn't seem to be what's happening here, because they've already committed over 600, that's insane, over $600 million to the left side of their infield. So obviously this team is in, because they got Machado on third base too. So I like this team a lot. I mean, Darvish, Snell, Machado, Tatis. Like, it's a beautiful young team. I love it.
Yeah, and I mean, don't forget about Hosmer. They gave Hosmer $189 million, a few seasons ago as well. So, I mean, basically that's, almost three quarters of $1 billion given to the infield. So I mean, like I said, Profar is probably going to play second base every now and then, but he's not going to be an everyday guy like Joe had mentioned. But when you add Snell, you add Darvish, guys that have been proven pitchers in their previous stops in the major leagues, excuse me, and then you come. Well, I don't know. I don't think is it called Petco Park anymore? No,
yep.
Right? So it's still called Petco. Okay, so I feel like most parks just go through name changes. I feel like everyone just changed their name, but yeah. So I mean, Petco Park has always been a pitcher friendly area. So I'm pretty sure that Snell, who did well in Tampa, and obviously Darvish did well in Texas. He did well in Chicago as well. So yeah, I mean, they definitely seem to be all in. Clearly, they were looking to become all in when they traded for Mitch Moreland last year, and then they added some other guys at the deadline last year. So they're a very talented team. It seems like it looks like every maybe 20 years they look to do this, like you said, Bobby. When they had those signings of getting Cameron and some other guys. But obviously, I think the last time they went to the World Series was in '98 when they lost to the Yankees. So rest in peace to Tony Gwynn. But yeah, it seems like I mean, Joe, you said it right. I mean, Tatis, I don't know if he's the best player in baseball, but he's definitely the most exciting. I think that title still goes to, number 27 in Anaheim. Well, sorry, Los Angeles of Anaheim, whatever it's called now. But yeah, number 27 and, whatever it is that wears the red and white is still, to me, the best guy in all of baseball. But Tatis is coming for sure. And, I also like that guy north of the border or in Buffalo, wherever they are, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm a fan. I was a fan of his father. Like I said, we'll get into the AL East later on. But yeah, San Diego was awesome. And I'm excited to see what they do this year.
Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
These were moves made by the Padres that they absolutely had to make if they wanted to compete in this National League, and especially in the NL East, because the Dodgers just keep churning out talent, and if they can't churn it out, they will acquire it. They had that big, of course, they had the Mookie Betts trade about a year and a half ago at this point. And of course, they had and now, they got Cy Young awards up and down this lineup for people who have won them or can win them. Trevor Bauer, they just added Clayton Kershaw. You got David Price in the bullpen as your long man for $30 million. I mean,
it's still terrible.
Well, of course. But if this Padres team is going to hope to be able to compete, they need to keep up with the Dodgers, and I think that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and they started the season 3-2. They won 3 out of 4 against the Diamondbacks, and then they lost one to the Diamondbacks and lost one to the Giants, and they have that series on now, and they just lost Tatis Jr. for about a week and a half. But Craig, they play in the NL West. We were all trying to signal to you that it was the NL West, but the Dodgers are extremely good. The Dodgers are so good, and you're absolutely right that if they
geography, not my best subject.
That's fine. Baseball is one of your best subjects, so we just mixed oil and water. So speaking of spending money, we have a few guys to talk about spending money, and since Craig already mentioned him, English not my strong suit, let's talk about Trevor Bauer, who signed a 3-year $102 million deal that can expire after the first year, because that's what Trevor Bauer does. And Rachel Luba, his agent, is incredible. What she gets for this guy is ridiculous, and to put him on a team, the best team in baseball, and give him an opportunity to win a ring at the age of 30, when he, Trevor Bauer, I mean, we can say what we want about him, right? We can look at his numbers and say he's really good. He's above average, and he's making a lot of money to be above average. He's a big person. What's that?
Guys, that's an automatic 12-9, and you're not going to get much above it. You might get 15 and 11, 15 and 6, something like that. You know what I mean? You're never going to get, in my opinion, from Trevor Bauer, that 22-23 win season.
No, the most he's won is 17, and that was in 2017. He went 17-9. In 2019, he went 11-13 between Cleveland and Cincinnati. A 5-4 in the COVID-shortened year last year, but he had a 1.73 ERA, which is what got him the money. He's 1-0 so far with the Dodgers this year. Pitched 6 1/3 in his first game, allowed 3 hits, 4 runs. He did give up 2 home runs, but he struck out 10. And only walked 2. So, I mean, you're right, Bobby. He can be very good, but he's never going to be great. But he has the personality and the gall to go out and get the job done and make the money doing it. And for Rachel Luba to get honestly, this was such a player and team friendly deal that Trevor Bauer got, because if he doesn't pitch well, the Dodgers can just whatever. We don't have to pay him anymore after year one. And then if he decides to come back, he decides to come back, or he can have a good year and go get paid more elsewhere. So it really is one of the best deals I've seen in a long time.
Which has been his tendency his entire career. Sign a 1-year deal, have a really good season, get paid, and do it all over again.
Right. And that's what he has done his entire career.
I don't blame him for it. He's got to make him $45 million this year.
Yeah, I mean, he pitched with Arizona, Cleveland. He kept signing deals with Cleveland, and then, he pitched very well there. He was great in Cleveland. He was 67 and 53 while pitching in Cleveland. So, I mean, again, above average. A 3.91 career ERA. But to add him into that rotation, Craig, as you said, which pushes David Price into the bullpen, you really do have, I don't want to say a band of misfit toys, but you do have a band of big personalities in LA, but that works for that market and that works for that team. And if a team with Trevor Bauer and David Price can win a World Series, more power to Dave Roberts, because I have trouble with a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. I can only imagine these two in the same place for a long period of time.
Well, I mean, just listen to their 1 through 5. Clayton Kershaw, Trevor Bauer, Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, and Dustin May, who's going to be a perennial all-star in this league. Then you got through them. Okay, here's David Price out of the bullpen.
Right, but this is the thing. He's the number one. It's not Bauer, and it's not
Buehler's
without a doubt.
Buehler's a dog.
Buehler's the number one. Like that. Yeah. That's the guy. That's the guy's become the horse. Like we saw it a few years ago against the Red Sox. Like he had a great game against us in the 2018 World Series. Like he is their guy. So that's why I think it made sense for them to go get Bauer. Right. So look. Yeah, you won the Cy Young. Yeah, you've had good seasons, but we're not looking for you to be the guy here. It's a 1-year tryout. Let's see if we can go back to back with you on our team and be our day 3 guy. Yeah. That's phenomenal. That's light work. Like I said, Buehler, that's the guy. Kershaw, finally got over the hump. Because he's kind of been the Peyton Manning, so to speak, of Major League Baseball. Someone that's going to dominate. In the regular season, but then kind of have his woes in the postseason. But he finally got over the hump. He finally won. So definitely solidified his Hall of Fame career too. I know that wasn't on the, that's not what we were going to talk about, but that's just something I thought about. Like he's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer now for sure. But yeah, like I said, Buehler should be the guy for that team going forward. Easily.
Yeah, for sure. To think about Buehler, go back to that Red Sox series you're talking about. The reason he's a dog, I don't know if you guys remember, they took him out in that 7th inning. And the relief that I felt that he wasn't on the mound anymore, as soon as they took him out, I was like, oh, we're good. We're good. That guy is not on the mound anymore. We're all right. We're good. He just has that feeling of a guy who, when he's in there, he changes the game. Like, you need to figure him out, because if you don't, he's not just going to pitch great. He's going to dominate you. Like, you'll have no chance. Then when it comes to bringing in Bauer, why I think that's great is because you think about Kershaw, he's at the end of his career, and Bauer's not a superstar, but both these guys are always relied upon to be these guys. You bring Bauer in, now it's split between the two of them. You know what I mean? Like, Bauer doesn't have to be the one. Kershaw doesn't have to be the one. They don't even have to be the two, for Christ's sakes. They're just coasting this season. That team is unbelievable.
And we're seeing that change in baseball right now. And you mentioned the ages of the guys. Trevor Bauer's 30 years old. We're talking about that contract that Trevor Bauer signed with 3 years, $102 million. That basically there's an option for year 2 and 3. It's really a 1-year deal. Trevor Bauer's 30. Clayton Kershaw is 33. David Price is 35. I didn't know Kenley Jansen was 33 years old, but that's another story for another time. But Dustin May, who Craig mentioned, is 23 years old. Walker Buehler is only 26. And Julio Urias is 24. So they have 3 of those 5, possibly 6 staples in their rotation for a long time to come. And the last thing I'm going to say about on this Dodgers team for now is, Bobby, I'm going to give you an argument right now as to why the DH is bad for baseball. Clayton Kershaw is 2 for 3 at the plate with a run scored. He's batting .667. Trevor Bauer 0 for 2 with an RBI. So
Clayton can rake, bro. Clayton can rake.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Clayton can rake.
Yeah, he's one of the few pitchers that can actually rake. Like,
yeah, but see, this is
not going to be Mike Hampton or whoever guys. That's not going to happen.
Who's the other guy that could rake?
Pitcher's named Mike, because it was Mike Hampton, Mike Stanton. And, no, I understand.
There's the other guy. Who's the other guy?
Well,
Rick Porcello was pretty good too.
Rick Porcello,
no, it wasn't Porcello. There's another guy who hits dingers as a pitcher. It was the past couple of years. He had like 12 last year.
The guy from the Reds, I think. But I forget his name.
Yeah, him.
I forget his name. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, the guy from the Reds.
I don't know who it is.
But anyway,
everyone listening knows who it is.
Before we get off the rails, we'll come back to that. But we'll have a DH conversation as the season goes on because I know that we are pretty split on that one. I think it's actually 5-1 in that. Well, Dave doesn't count, but I think it's 4-1 in that argument. But yeah, so Trevor Bauer signs that contract, and then again, that wasn't all that we saw. We had Nolan Arenado leave Colorado. He goes to St. Louis. This is a big contract for St. Louis because we all know St. Louis is generally a team that builds from within. They don't like to go and throw money around all the time. When they had the opportunity to do it with Pujols, they let him walk. 9 years, $275 million for the all-star third baseman. I really love this signing. I think he is so good, and I think that him being trapped in the Mile High City, especially after DJ LeMahieu jumped ship to go to New York, it left him in a spot where he needed to make a move like this. This is a great contract for him and allows the Cardinals something to build around for the next 9 seasons.
Yeah, I love it. I think he's the best third baseman in baseball, not Chapman.
That's tough. That's tough. I
think we talked about it. Yeah, I think it's Arenado, then Chapman, then our guy in Boston, Devers. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I think he's going to do great over there in Busch Stadium. I think he's going to hit a lot of those home runs into Big Mac land, and they're going to love him. You still have the captain there and Molina. And I said St. Louis just always finds a way to still be around, right? Like people talk about the Central kind of flipping back and forth. Whether will it be Milwaukee? Because obviously Yelich has been a problem since he got there. Will Chicago come back and make noise? But Arenado, like you said, Joe, with him coming there for the next 9 seasons, probably like 6 years out the line, he'll be productive. And that's
he's 30 now.
That's a win. So it's just like, to me, he could definitely rake. He still plays third base at a high level. So yeah, St. Louis to me got a steal. I mean, I think honestly, maybe they realized they made a mistake earlier when not re-signing Pujols. Like obviously he hasn't been the same in LA, but when a guy that's been that dominant for you, you don't just let him go because you don't want to pay him. But once again, we see that happens. We did it with Mookie Betts as well. So that's just what we do in sports, unfortunately.
You're not going to let me to go off on that tangent. I completely agree with the Cardinals for not signing Albert Pujols. That would have been a disaster for them. It was a disaster for the Angels. We're not doing that right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. We're not going to do that right now. But so
we can have another show on that. Cause I'll argue that. But
wait. Let's have a. So I would Nolan Arenado. Go back to him real quick. I think he's the most underrated player in baseball. I think he's up there, at least in the top 3 underrated players in baseball, because you never hear his name, and he's so consistent.
There's a reason why
every single year.
There's a reason why, and it's the same reason why Mike Trout isn't bigger than Mike Trout is in the sports community. They played on the West Coast, and there's no national TV deal for baseball like there is with football. Yeah. So you have a guy that was trapped, quote unquote. I think the Rockies are a pretty good organization, but I think he felt trapped with the Rockies, and that's why he signed the deal that he did to get the heck out of there. But I mean, did we really know who DJ LeMahieu was before he put on his pinstripes? We may have.
Yeah,
I do. I knew it since he was in college.
This group did, but it's like, I mean, the fan chilling in maybe Boise, Idaho, that was, getting some potatoes.
That is what a stereotype that is. Are you kidding me?
That's fine.
I mean, they named the goddamn. Listen, no way. Hang on. They named the goddamn bowl game after it. Okay, the Boise, Idaho Potato Bowl.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. So listen, come at me. _ Hollywood Wale.
Coming back to it.
Wait. So back.
No one knew him like that. But real baseball fans like us knew.
Right. And that's what I was trying to say is like, that's why he's underrated. So I don't think underrated is necessarily the right word when it comes to baseball for these kind of guys. It's undiscovered because they play in these markets that no one really pays attention to. And it always does seem like unless you're Griffey with the Mariners in the 90s, or your Kurt Schilling or Luis Gonzalez or Randy Johnson with the Diamondbacks in the late 1990s into the early 2000s, or your If you're not on the Red Sox, the Yankees, or the Dodgers, no one knows who you are.
So it's essentially be iconic or be on one of 5 teams. That's how you become known in baseball.
Yeah, that's baseball. Right? Because think about the NFL. We can all name the star player on all 32 NFL teams. Now, again, this group probably could do that with baseball, but it's not as easy, and I think there's more of a conversation. I also think there's more variables when it comes to baseball, so that's why Arenado was just kind of doing his thing in Colorado. I mean, they were putting together a good thing there in Colorado for a long time. And they just
playoffs, 2 years ago?
They did. They just couldn't get over that hump. And then, once LeMahieu went out the door and then Arenado went out the door, that was the end of it for them. But this move to St. Louis, to bring it back to where we started, Yadier Molina, Paul Goldschmidt, and Nolan Arenado are the cornerstones of that lineup right now. And you still have Matt Carpenter, who's really coming off the bench. But, he's 35. So those guys are 38, 33, 30, and 35, respectively. And you have some pretty young ball players on that team. And they're still going to bring in the kids to do the job, and that's why they spent the money. Is I think they're revamping like they had done in the early 2000s when they started competing for World Series. Adam Wainwright is still on that pitching staff, so this was just the right deal for both sides at that time. So moving on to our next deal, as we're getting just through the offseason, Francisco Lindor was a big move as he leaves Cleveland. I know the Cleveland faithful and the Cleveland fans were pretty broken up about this. I don't blame him.
He's their Mookie, man. I'd be mad too.
Yeah. He's a young guy too. Francisco Lindor is 27 years old. He's a 4-time All-Star. He's been with Cleveland since he came up with Cleveland, and he's just impressive. He's super impressive. Last year in 60 games, he was 61 for 236, which was a 258 batting average, but he had a 335 on base, hit 8 home runs, 13 doubles. He's a middle infielder, and he has an incredible glove. He's got 2 gold gloves to go along with those 4 All-Star selections. He signs I have to hit the button on Baseball Reference, not a sponsor.
Monstrous deal.
10 years, 341.
I'm sorry, it's 10 years. Yeah, signed through 2031. So he'll make
That's wild.
Well, he'll make 22.3 this year.
But he's worth it. He's worth every penny. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys. Is Joe frozen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But that's the type of guy he is, though, when it comes to Lindor. Like, he's the Mookie Betts. Like, if there's certain guys in MLB that deserve that $300 million contract, and watching Francisco Lindor, he's one of them. Go ahead.
Right, yeah. Let's just do that whole part over again.
Yeah, just rewind.
Hang on a second. My internet completely just shit the bed.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
Where did we leave off?
Lindor.
Which part?
The money.
Just start it over.
10 years, 341. He'll make 22.3.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start over with Lindor, Craig. Is that good?
Yep.
So moving on from the Cardinals and taking a look at the New York Mets, Francisco Lindor moves from Cleveland to the Big Apple and signs with the Mets, which is a good situation for them. Lindor, a 4-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glover, 2-time Silver Slugger, Platinum Glove recipient as well. He's signed with the Mets through 2031. He'll make $22.3 million this year, and then his deal goes for another 10 years for $341 between 2022 and 2031. This guy was a staple in Cleveland. They hated to see him go, but it really is the right move for him. He's a middle infielder with a good glove, a very good glove. He's a career 285 hitter, which is right where he should be. He plays every game. In his career, the least amount of games he's played in a season based on the amount of games is 99 in 2015. He's played 158, 159, 158, 143, and then 60 in the 60-game season last year. This guy's a horse, and he's healthy, and he's good. Knock on wood. We don't want to wish any injuries on anybody. I love this Lindor deal, and I think the Mets made the right move. When I first saw it, I didn't like it because the Mets to me are just the Mets.
It's the Mets, yeah.
But he joins an interesting lineup. And this is going to be good for New York.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland definitely traded Lindor for pennies on the dollar. I mean, they were definitely put in that situation where they had to. It really was very, you brought it up earlier, it was very Mookie Betts-esque how that went down in Cleveland. Not as bad because Cleveland, actually isn't the most profitable team in baseball cutting corners. But anyways, we'll get there. Yeah, no, I love the deal for the Mets. Francisco Lindor to me is one of those guys that when you watch him play baseball, Joe, I know this is your mindset when you watch him play, but he plays it the right way, man. Just from the moment he walks on the diamond, we both coached before, and there's just those guys that as soon as you watch them play, there's something about them. The way they field the ball, the way they do everything, you're just like, okay, that's different. And that's the type of guy Francisco Lindor is. So the fact that the Mets actually made a move for a guy like that is big for them because they don't usually do that. You're right. So.
Especially at 27 years old. And he's fun to watch because he enjoys playing the game. It's one of those things where, you turn on anything or you're on YouTube or whatever, you see a highlight of Francisco Lindor and there's a smile on his face. And that's what's fun about it. And that's what, honestly, we'll have to do an episode on this, on what baseball is missing. It's fun and guys having a personality and showing that personality because they need it. But before Ray goes, Bobby, I just want to let you know, Jake DeGrom, 2 for 3 at the plate with an RBI.
All year? Is this happening all year?
All 100%.
All season, right? All season. All 162 games.
Yeah, also, geez. All right.
Every baseball show, I will make sure to point out which hitters are doing well.
Here we go. I'm gonna.
Wade Miley. Wade Miley was the pitcher that could hit, by the way.
Wade Miley.
Okay, yeah, I remember that guy. Right
in my head.
So I guess first hot take outside of what Joe said about the pitchers that can hit. First hot take of the show. I think Lindor and Alonso will be the best 3-4 combination, not just in the National League, but of all of baseball. I think it's going to be phenomenal to see what those guys do to pitchers on a nightly basis. And I just love how they negotiated the deal, right? He wanted 12 years, 385. They offered, I think 10 years, 325. And wow, they met in the middle. Would you look at that? It can actually happen.
It's almost like that's what the definition of negotiation.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go there because you know why I brought it up the way I brought it up. I'm not going to go there though. But it's amazing what can happen when two sides can actually come together and actually agree on a deal that works for both sides, and you keep the player that you actually want.
Well, so, Ray, not to go.
It's just oh god.
Not to go off on another tangent, but sometimes the problem is the player overvalues themselves or the team undervalues a player. And we know a certain team in this area that undervalues players all the time. And we know another team in this area that overvalues players or that players overvalue themselves all the time. So that's going to happen. But
Boston sports is rough right now.
Boston sports is brutal. And I know this is
I need a therapist, honestly.
But shout out, and I can't remember his name right now, but shout out to the University of Maine, former University of Maine Black Bear goalie that is starting for the Boston Bruins tonight. No, the backup to Vladar because he played last night. But anyway, we're at tangent, middle of the show. This Mets lineup, Ray, you mentioned Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. James McCann, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, J.D. Davis, Brandon Nimmo, Kevin Pillar, Michael Conforto. Of those top 8 guys in the lineup, obviously not counting the pitchers that seem to be able to hit, they're all under the age of 30 with the exception of McCann and Pillar.
Yeah.
Which is awesome for the Mets right now because that tells me they got a 3 to 4 year run in an NL East that's on the East Coast, Craig, that is winnable. That is winnable. So I'm a big fan of this Lindor deal, and you're absolutely right, Ray. But to get to your point about the contract, it is nice when teams and players can meet in the middle when they want to be together somewhere. I mean, Lindor very easily could have said, hey, I'll play for you in 2021, but none. Clearly, I think he wanted to go to New York and wanted to play for the Mets. And I think that was the best opportunity he received in his mind. And that's why he signed that contract. And dude got paid, and he deserves it. He's a good ball player. And like I said, the smile on his face and the fact that you can see that he enjoys playing the game is the best part of it. I mean, he does have a lower batting average than Jake DeGrom, but we're not gonna go there right now. So now going north of the border, or as Ray said, or to Buffalo, wherever the hell they're playing, George Springer formerly of the Houston Astros. I like being able to do that.
Assholes.
So the George Springer goes north of the border to play on a Blue Jays team that is already getting stacked with we'll talk about the AL East coming up, but with the way the Blue Jays and the Yankees look and the fact that the Rays haven't been dismantled yet, the Red Sox are in trouble, but coming soon. So George Springer signs a 6-year, $150 million contract. He, like I said, he joins a pretty impressive lineup already. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, and then, of course, you have George Springer in there as well. So, and they have Joe Panik. I forgot they had Joe Panik who came over from San Francisco.
I like Joe Panik a lot, actually. So before you move on, I want to say my favorite part about all these young guys is that it's like a video game. It's like what I would do when I'm creating players is that the sons are here. The sons of these guys that we watched growing up are in baseball right now. Like Fernando Tatis Jr., I remember the day his dad hit 2 grand slams in the same inning.
No.
Bo Bichette, I remember Dante Bichette like it was yesterday, bro. Guerrero, I remember him hitting a home run when the ball bounced on halfway to the plate. Like, the bloodlines are running strong in baseball right now, and that's one of the reasons why I feel pretty hopeful for the future of the sport. Because, like, I mean, you mentioned Biggio, too. Biggio's son is in baseball now, too. I think Clemens' son, I don't know if he actually ever made it. I didn't think so. But you know, all these guys are, so you can cut that last one out. So all these guys are coming in, and it's really exciting to hear these names and to hear these guys be like, oh, I know that guy. I remember him.
See, it's great for us because we love the sport. The sport needs a revamp, and again, we will have an episode on that on how we would save baseball. But that's the problem, is that there's so many people out there that don't know that these guys are even in the league, or know that they're the sons of these incredible players that played when we were kids. And that's part of the history of the game. And that has to be, you know, I think about that with my kids all the time. I'm like, my kids are never going to know who Tom Brady is. They're never going to know who, you know, I mean, they'll definitely never know who Pedro Martinez is. You know what I mean? They will from lore, but they'll never have seen them play. So it's just such an interesting part of the game. But you know, you mentioned those guys, and it's so interesting that the Toronto Blue Jays basically became the team that started hogging all the kids of the former major leaguers. If they had Tatis, it would be like the 4 cornerstones of 2000s baseball. So as we move away from the offseason moves, we're going to move into the Boston Red Sox, who I am very down on, yes, after 4 games. Excuse me. But as
it's okay. We're here for you.
Do you need a bag of Skinny Pop? Not a sponsor.
I do, actually.
So we taking a look at the Boston Red Sox back in January, the Sox traded cash on a player to be named later. We still don't know who that player is, for Adam Ottavino and pitcher Frank German. February 10th, they traded cash and left fielder Andrew Benintendi to the Kansas City Royals in a 3-team deal, which involved the New York Mets, which brought outfielder Franchi Cordero, right-handed pitcher Josh Winkowski, and 3 players to be named later, 2 from the Royals, 1 from the Mets, that came to Boston. They signed Hunter Renfroe on December 14th. They signed Kike Hernandez on February 2nd, Garrett Richards on February 3rd. Marwin Gonzalez came in on February 11th, and Martin Perez came in on February 12th. So you look at the signings that the Boston Red Sox made. The best part about all of this for me is that Chaim Bloom is undoing what Dave Dombrowski undid when he came here. And that's the biggest thing for me, is that I know in my heart of hearts, and I think we all do, that the Boston Red Sox are not playing for 2021, but in fact playing for 2023, 2024.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you look at the signings, none of these signings say win this year. Even you flash back to year after when we signed like Victorino, Napoli, all these guys, and we were like, oh, bargain bin signings, blah, blah, blah. And people are trying to relate these guys to them. No. These guys aren't even on the same playing field. This is clearly a sign of playing to win later, but doing just enough that they can say, like, hey, but, like, we signed Kike Hernandez and Garrett Richards, guys. Like, we tried. But no, I'm with you, man. I don't want to say I'm down on the season, it's over. But when you go into the first series of the year and you're playing maybe one of the worst teams in baseball and you get absolutely demolished by that team, guess what? You might be the worst team in baseball.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, that's fair to say, and like you said, Bobby, like I don't think that any of the signings they made were geared to win right away. And I mean, like you said, for Victorino and Napoli had just came up playing in 2 World Series with Texas at the time. Victorino had won a World Series in Philadelphia, so these are guys that, you know, Johnny Gomes played in Tampa, went to a World Series. So these guys had already been battle tested, had been there, you know. So it was about, okay, how do we maximize getting another year for Ortiz and maximize what we have with with Ortiz and Pedroia. Like that's what you're supposed to do. So yeah, it's a joke how they put together the roster. I mean, I hope that we bring this up on another episode, but we can address it now too. But it's like, what exactly is the right way to go about winning in this sport? Because people were killing Dombrowski. Oh, he dismantled the farm and he traded everybody away. He sold out. Well, 2016
won a shit, man. Yeah,
win the AL East. 2017, you win the AL East. 2018, not only do you win the AL East, but you win the World Series and you break a franchise record going 108-54. So to me, I'm about going all out. Damn all building the farm for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 10 million years. This is not pre-04 anymore. So I think before then, it's like, well, you got to build, you know, you got to bring in Nomar, you got to have the Valentin, you got to have that. That's not the case anymore. Bring guys here on a bigger deal if you can. And I think that shit started with Manny. Manny signed an 8-year deal from, you know, when Dan Duquette signed him, 8 years, 160, and then it started a trickle effect. Like, you got to bring guys here. Obviously, every deal is not going to be like Manny. You're going to have your Carl Crawfords, you're going to have your Adrian Gonzalez's. I get that. But I'd rather you swing for the fences than you look to try to win now, so to speak, as I put that in quotations mark. But really, you're not looking to win for another 3 or 4 years.
But teams can have sustained success with a farm system and still continue to build through that farm system. The Yankees have done it the entire existence of the New York Yankees. The St. Louis Cardinals have done it the entire existence of the St. Louis Cardinals. But the Boston Red Sox have not been able to do that, and they have the same amount of money as one of those teams and nearly the same amount of money as the other. And for you to say, yeah, all right, Dave Dombrowski came in here and got us a World Series. Well, great. What do we have to show for it now? So if you're happy with them going all out, yes or no answer, are you happy with the state of the team right now in 2021?
No.
That's because of Dave Dombrowski.
But when you think about it, though,
you're right. When you think about it, it's actually John Henry, and he needs to.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but
it really because listen, Dombrowski did right. Dombrowski, like I get the hate on Dombrowski, and it's a narrative all over the place. You know what I mean? But like this guy came in, but he did exactly what he was asked to do. Dombrowski was brought here for one reason, and that was to win us a damn championship. Whatever he had to do, but you look at what he did in Detroit. So he had this track record coming in here. You knew what he was doing when he got here. You know what I mean? Like he went into Detroit and he traded everyone for Miguel Cabrera. Everyone. The entire goddamn farm system.
But he also
as he should have.
As he should, right. So it's like, but just think about it. My bad. Just think about it. He traded Juan Moncada, who's good, but I wouldn't give up what we got for Chris Sale and what he brought us for what we could have gotten from Juan Moncada. You know what I mean? Like for what he actually did for this team, because that's the big deal, right? That's the one that's like everyone points to, that we traded this young guy for this guy with the shoulder. We don't win a World Series without Chris Sale. So
and what is Moncada done?
Dave Dombrowski.
I
never blame him.
That's what he's saying, is that while he wouldn't he wouldn't have given it up.
Right.
Series.
Right.
So, but again, so this is what we're talking about, right? Because we can go revisionist history, but let's talk about Dombrowski's track record. You're absolutely right, Bobby. But he left the Detroit Tigers in the exact same state that he left the Boston Red Sox in. Yeah. But this is a bigger problem that goes to John Henry, which you guys know I can drive these cattle home all day. Is that I watched the movie the other night because it was on TV. I watched Moneyball again. And that story at the end where he tries to bring in Billy Beane and Billy Beane says no. So what does he do? He goes out and finds this young exec in Theo Epstein, brings in Theo, tells him, this is what we want to do. Guess what? Theo didn't get along with John Henry for very long. He didn't. Nobody really seems to get along with John Henry for very long. But so then that happens and Theo he leaves, comes back, they do their thing. Then when Theo leaves, he's trying to find a guy that'll come in, but he needed to switch it up. Why did John Henry switch up his mentality of what he wanted? Because for years, all he wanted was Billy Beane. All he wanted was Moneyball with money, which doesn't make sense. That model doesn't work here. And we can say that it did in 2004 because it did work in 2004. But the thing is that Theo Epstein knew to bring in guys that cost money in order to win the championship while also providing a farm system that was sustainable. So Ray, this is another rebuttal to your argument. When they knew what they were getting and they brought Dombrowski in to do a certain thing, but they brought Theo Epstein in to do a certain thing and build that farm. As I get really excited and knock my microphone over, they bring in Theo Epstein to do almost the exact same thing, and he sustained it longer. Because Dave Dombrowski gutted everything and they had nothing left. It's like, if you move the couch out, what are you going to sit on? But Theo would get rid of the couch and then bring in chairs and bring in more chairs and then bring in a love seat and then bring a couch back in. And sure, it got crowded, but it won. It worked. Dombrowski just couldn't get it done. So now they're going back to the old model and bringing in Chaim Bloom. Chaim Bloom is more of a Billy Beane than Theo Epstein ever will be. And that's not a good thing, but it's a good thing in the sense that he's going to build the farm system back up. And again, Ray, as you said, do the job that he is asked to do by the owner. So my filibuster is just about over, Bobby. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you because this is how I picture John Henry calls Dave Dombrowski into his office. He says, I want you to do anything that you can. Trade anyone, bring me some of the big name guys. This Bobby V era is over. We want a World Series. Go get it. Trade anyone you have to. 3 years later, why'd you trade all our farm system? Why don't we have a farm system left? You know, that's how I picture John Henry. That's why I agree. I think it's a John Henry thing.
Which is
right. I think it's a John Henry thing because when you look, the direction of this baseball team for the last 10 years has been such an inconsistent mess that like they don't have an image. They don't have a direction that they're going in anymore. It's like it's so up and down with this team that I agree. It has to be at the top and it has to be the owner. The only consistent thing from day one of all this is John Henry.
You know, I've always said it, and especially with you guys, is that the David Prices, the Adrian Gonzalez's, the Carl Everett's, I love Carl Everett. But nonetheless, these guys come in here and they can't handle it. They can't handle the pressure. They can't handle the media. The ultimate guy that can't handle the pressure is John Henry. And I say that, and then everybody's like, well, he's still here. Yeah, he's the owner. He has the money to still be here. He's still making lots and lots of money off of being inconsistent because people still buy the tickets and still go because he has that nailed down that he's going to be able to put asses in seats because this is Boston and this is one of the biggest sports markets in the country, if not the world. But the thing about John Henry is that he felt as though he was going to walk in this door and he could do no wrong, that he would win us some World Series here in Boston. We would love him and we would never look down on him, speak bad about him or do any of that. But we are. And he doesn't like that.
Yeah. What he forgot is that Boston's actually the smartest sports town in the country, or one of the smartest sports towns in the country.
Relatively.
So we don't get fed bullshit. You know what I mean? We've talked about this on the show before. When coaches and teams try to feed us with that silver spoon, all of Boston's like, bro, no. Like, just not happening. Not today, not ever, never will. That's what Boston sports does.
So bringing it back to now, we look at the starting lineup. We can talk about this and just kind of preview where we're at. The Boston Red Sox 1-3 on the season, swept by Baltimore to start the year. They win last night over Tampa, which was an okay game. We were talking in the Discord at the end, and they're up 7 runs, and it looked like they were going to give it away. Luckily, they scored some runs in the 8th and put the game away. But right now, the Red Sox are batting .238 as a team with a .285 on-base percentage. They're 1-3 on the season. Their best player is JD Martinez, which is fine. He's paid the most. But what's interesting to me is when I look at this lineup and I say one of these things is not like the other. We're paying JD Martinez a lot of money to have the lack of talent built around him. Bogarts is fine. He's batting .294. Rafael Devers can't hit. He's had a problem with the glove. Bobby Dalbec, who's 26 years old, he hasn't been able to put it together. Christian Vasquez is batting freaking .455. When we all thought that Christian Vasquez was never going to be a hitter. We thought he was going to be your prototypical 60s catcher who was there for defense. And now all of a sudden, the last 2 years, he's figured out how to swing a bat. You have Marwin Gonzalez, Christian Arroyo, Kevin Plawecki on the bench. And then I don't know what the pitching staff is, but it's there. They throw baseballs.
They're not
guys.
good.
I'm just really not happy with this.
To summarize this, they're not good. You know what I mean?
Not. And that's why I'll watch the games. I also don't have Nesson on YouTube TV. Neither one of those are a sponsor. But if someone from YouTube TV listens to this, or Nesson, figure your stuff out because I want to watch the Red Sox, even if they are bad, because I love baseball. Bobby and I have talked about this before, and we've kind of gotten negative on this. But bad baseball is like bad pizza. It's still baseball, and I'm still going to watch it because it's fun to watch. It's a fun game. It needs a revamp. The sport does, but you're right. To summarize it, we kind of just did a history of Boston ownership and GMs over the last 20 years, but it's all true. It's right there in front of us. The facts are there. And, as Bobby so eloquently put in the rundown, a couple questions. Bobby, one question that you asked that I'm going to answer right now is what's the ceiling for this team? 70 wins. Ooh. I really don't. I don't think they win a lot. I don't think they're going to play well. Do we think about the basement? I think Baltimore still finishes last in this division. Even when Chris Sale comes back, I think it's going to be tough. And I don't see much happening unless they can find some prospects to bring up and give some time, or they go out and spend at the trade deadline.
Yeah, completely agree.
Go ahead, Bobby.
My bad. Real quick, I think this team, it's very possible at the end of this season that we're looking at the Red Sox as one of the worst 3 baseball teams in the league. Because you just watch them. You guys know baseball. You watch them, and they're not a good baseball team. You know that this team is not going to win more than 80 games. They are not going to win more than half their games. And I can guarantee you that because they don't play the game the right way. They make too many errors. They swing at bad pitches. They make bad running mistakes. It's atrocious in Boston right now. That starting rotation compared to what it was when we won that World Series is just, it's despicable. You know what I mean?
We can't live in the past we can't live in the past with it either, right? We have to live in the present.
You can't, but I'm saying okay, I agree. If you're going to move on from that rotation, do it. But this is what you're going to give us. This is garbage, bro. And then the 2 guys you're going to hang on to from that rotation, you give them $20 million each. And they can't even fucking throw the ball right now. So it's like,
yeah, I know we had talked about it off there. But getting Sale and Rodriguez back, that's why I think you can give more of a synopsis of what they're going to be. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen because with Rodriguez having a dead arm, and then Sale has thrown as many pitches as I have in the last year. So it's just like I just don't know what's going to come of it. But I'm actually the opposite of you two. Go figure. I do think they find a way to figure it out, and I'm not saying figure it out winning like 90+ games. Like that's dumb. Like I still want to be on the show. Don't kick me off for saying dumb shit, right? But can they go 84-78 like they did in 2019? Sure, they can do that. 84, 78, 85, and 77, something like that. Or maybe like the 06 team go 86 and 76. Who knows? Maybe something like that. But they're not. It's not going to be something where they win 95 games to catch lightning in a bottle unless a prospect comes to catch fire. Kind of like Michael Shavers did a few years ago. I mean, even though the team was awful, but Shavers caught fire and was good for about a month and a half. Really was like their best player. They need that type of jolt, or they need that type of overhaul at the trade deadline, bringing in somebody that can help the team. So my thing is, are they going to do it? They're probably not, because once again, if Chaim Bloom is being told, hey, rebuild the farm, do this. But once again, Joe made the great analogy earlier, about, trading a couch, but bringing in chairs and then bringing in a love seat. That's what Theo did, even though I wasn't a fan of that, at the time. But it was just like, you still brought back guys that were going to be key parts. Even in 07, guys like Bobby Kilty, guys like Julio Lugo, so there was guys that was brought in. I mean, even though Lugo,
I hated Julio Lugo, bro.
Yeah, we'll get into that on a future show. But it's just
I hated Julio. Yeah, don't even.
So
keep going.
The JD Drew. So it's like there's guys that were brought in while bigger pieces were moving. Manny gets moved in 08. You bring back Jason Bay. Which I can go on and on. So it's just like you have to get to that point where I guess you're doing both, which is what I mean, that's going against what I just said. I said go for broke essentially, but if you're going to do the other option, you have to do what Theo did, in my opinion. You can't do what this guy's doing now, where it's just like, well, we're just going to get enough players. We're going to get 10 utility players and maybe have one or two good players. That's not going to work.
So this is the next part of that, though, right? Is that Theo Epstein came in after Dan Duquette, which, say what you will about Dan Duquette, he did a job for a while and put this team in some good positions. So I'm not saying this is a Tony Dungy, John Gruden situation where John Gruden built the house and Tony Dungy brought it to a Super Bowl. I'm telling you that, or the other way around, sorry. But what I am telling you is that Theo Epstein was coming into a better situation than Chaim Bloom is. Because Theo Epstein at least had a farm system. Chaim Bloom has the skeleton of a farm system. He also is now dealing with a team that just relocated from Pawtucket to Worcester. And they're also now talking about Tanner Hoke back down to AAA, back to Worcester.
Which is
what's that?
That's a joke. Like, to me, I feel like
to bring in Erod, which it blows my mind because, I think Eduardo Rodriguez has a lot of upside. But there's too many red flags there to continue to pay this guy and run him out on the field. Taking away his bout with COVID last year that sidelined him, and then with the heart issues, which he had heart issues anyway, now the dead arm and all this stuff. Like, man, you're a major leaguer. Like, you're being paid millions of dollars. You should be in shape enough to not have a dead arm. And dead arms happen. I get it. But dead arms happen like that to guys like us who don't throw every day. It shouldn't be happening to a finely tuned athlete. And the decisions that are being made are where I agree with you, Ray, that putting this team together the way Chaim Bloom has been atrocious, but he is working within the confines of what he can work with, though I think some of those confines are being confined by John Henry and the Red Sox, where they don't want to spend a lot of money. And I think that still comes back somewhat to a COVID era, but now as I say it, it's crap because the Dodgers have done it. The Cardinals have done it. The Padres have done it. They've gone out and figured out that they can still spend money. They're still going to make money and they're going to be perfectly fine. But the Red Sox are refusing to spend money.
Be an issue
it's the silver
issue in Boston, period.
Yeah, it's the silver spoon, bro. That's what it is. It's the fact that they're literally trying to sell us that they didn't want it. They couldn't afford to pay Mookie Betts.
But that's rhetoric.
We
see that in Boston all the time. We see it in Boston.
But still want to tell you, hey, come and get a Fenway frame.
But not only that, but then so you're going to take. But you can't tell me you can't afford this dude when you just spent $40 million on two pitchers that are over 34 years old or over 30 years old. You have an outfielder who could have been the cornerstone of your franchise.
Bobby, it's rhetoric. They didn't want to spend the money. It's all rhetoric.
But it's all rhetoric, right? But that's why John Henry is just garbage.
Hang on.
Man. It's always
how many
rhetoric.
times do we hear it from Danny Ainge? We were in on that deal, but it just didn't work out. It's all rhetoric and BS. And it doesn't matter what we say or what we do. We can come back, and I say it all the time. And Tom Brady didn't want to be here. I said Mookie Betts didn't want to be here. I mean, I'd much rather be in Tampa or LA too, but I'm here. So when I have my press conference, I'll tell the truth when I just say I don't want to be in Boston anymore. But
it's fucking cold.
This is what happens in this town because, Bobby, everybody pays so much attention. And when you said earlier that Boston is one of the smartest sports towns, we're okay because we still let the wool get pulled over our eyes, and they push this rhetoric on us and nothing ever happens, and we continue to spend our money. So really, who's the smart one here? Is it the guys that own the teams making the billions of dollars, or is it us who continuously pay tickets to go see teams that suck?
Yeah, because they know we're loyal to a fault. It's been like that. It was like that in the 60s, it's like that in the 70s, and it's like that now.
I'm not. It's not the rhetoric that pisses me off. Isn't the we're not that. I can accept a not good team. I really can.
Sure,
if we're not good, we're not good.
You just want to see a good product. They can be bad, but at least play the game.
Right, and be honest with me. Let me know what team this is. You know what I mean?
Good
like, you look back at the Celtics when Marcus Banks was our point guard. Listen, we knew who that team was. They were horrible. We never had any doubts that they weren't winning more than 20 games that season.
Yeah.
And then,
but then you look at a team like the Celtics this year where we're being spoon-fed this bullshit of like, we're a contender. You're not a fucking contender. The Red Sox aren't a contender. The Celtics aren't, like, these teams, and they just feed us this bullshit. I'm sorry.
Well, and then you have a guy like,
and it's just annoying me. I'm sorry.
You have a guy like Garrett Richards who goes out and throws the other day. He has a 27 ERA in one game pitched, and he goes out and
that was pitiful.
And in his post-game press conference, he says that he felt good and that he was throwing a lot of strikes. And it's like, well, buddy,
no, you forgot the best part, Joe.
What's that?
He got beat by the shift a couple of times.
And he got beat by the shift. Yeah. Right. Because
you know who that sounds like?
Sounds like
Danny.
What's the nickname, Ray? What's the nickname?
Oh, it sounds like
horseshoes.
Sounds like horseshoes. You know, I almost got the pitch to the right spot. I almost got the curveball over. Yeah, I almost got the sinker to be working. I almost got my mustache to be just perfect. Well, guess what? Your mustache was longer than your outing, Garrett Richards. You suck. You blow. This is not Anaheim. You were trash. This is not Mickey. This is not Disneyland. This is Boston. Get your shit together. Get it together right now. Not next month. Not get it today, Mr. Richards.
Yesterday.
Yeah, it's rhetoric.
Whatever.
But now
rhetoric. Take that for rhetoric.
Now that we've effectively taken a dump all over Fenway Park, after talking about every other team, we are going to cut this one here for missing the point, as we are an hour into this, and again, probably just B&M'd about the Red Sox for 30 minutes. So we'll come back with more baseball talk. We will be more positive, but right now with the Red Sox at 1-3, Ray still thinks they can win 84 games, even though they're having press conferences like Garrett Richards had, and they're going to send out Tanner Hoke. Rayshawn is still positive, but Bobby and I are right here. I mean, Bobby and I are on the same page here. So
the alarms, everyone, sound the fucking alarms.
What was intended to be a preview episode turned into a bitch fest. But we appreciate you all joining us for Missing the Point's first baseball episode of the season. We hope you guys had as much fun listening to it as we did recording it. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you next time on Missing the Point. I'm Joe Malkin with Rayshawn Buchanan, the real BK Bob Kelly, and Craig D'Alessandro. Talk to you later.
Welcome, explorers of the human experience. This is Let's Talk Soul, and I'm your host, Claudia Monticelli. We're not afraid of the great mysteries of existence here. Soul versus consciousness, we're on it. Spirituality versus science, we've got that covered too. Join us in navigating these profound topics with wisdom, curiosity, and a dash of audacity. Whether you're a spiritual veteran or just starting your journey, Let's Talk Soul is your passport to the unknown. Let's Talk Soul, diving into the depths of the human spirit. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show.
Egomaniac.
It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.
Electricast.